All right, welcome to Talking Ball. Welcome to Talking Ball. I'm Stephen Willis along with Bill Flowers, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Austin Peay game. We're going to talk about a little about the Tulane game and whatever we see in college football that we want to talk about. So thank you very much for joining us. How you doing, Bill? Welcome back.
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. What did you notice last weekend against Austin Peay? I mean, we only had one practice. It was a short week. It was an FCS game. Whenever you played games like that when you were in college, what was that like?
Well, I don't think I ever had a day where we only had one day of practice. So that's unique. But when you have those short weeks, it's pretty much just kind of turn around, do what you do, know how to do, your game plan. And playing a smaller team like that, it's hard to stay focused. And I think you kind of saw that a little bit last week.
Yeah, indeed. They struggled on the O-line, it looked like, to protect. It looked like they were playing a lot of base stuff. If you want to look at our defense and an offense, and it's like whatever our base defense is, that's kind of what they played. There was a couple of blitzes and fires that were thrown in, but it was kind of base stuff.
Yeah, you're never going to see anything more than just a very vanilla defense and offense when you're playing teams like that. And I think sometimes when you go into that situation and with those kinds of vanilla offensive defense, you get a little bit lazy. You get a little bit lackadaisical, and I think you saw that a little bit.
Yeah, indeed. But aside from that, what kind of stood out from you from that Austin Peay game? What were some things that are just crossed your mind from that game?
So I don't know. I'm not gonna say that I'm pessimistic, but I think. Tell me if you're wrong. The thing that stands out to me is Kiffin. Mm-hmm. When you saw his face, I saw Saban. I saw an angry, lack of focus team that I guarantee you he was very Sabanicious. He went in there and gave it to him during halftime. To me, that's what I saw, and that's a good thing because he expects perfection out of those guys. And so to me, that's kind of what stood out was, okay, you know what, Kiffin's expecting a high level of performance every game, no matter where it is. And so for me, that's what kind of stood out, which is a good thing. As a player, you kind of you can read your coach, but then also you saw some you're seeing some really good things. But I'm not seeing enough Connor. I'm not seeing enough kind of pound it. And as we kind of discuss, we'll get into that more.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my first takeaway from that game was, after looking to Lane Kiffin, is he got his wish of wanting to be able to yell at his team about something. It's like, okay, we're angry, but he wanted to be angry from that game. He wanted something to preach to this team because he didn't want a 70-0 blowout where there's nothing he could talk about with Tulane coming in. Because Tulane, we'll talk about in a little bit, that's a scary team. They have a bunch of good athletes and they're pretty well coached. But Alabama's after Tulane. Tulane is the ultimate trap game. And he wants to get their undivided attention going into that game.
100%. I agree. Tulane's a good team. They're going to pin their ears back. They're going to give everything to you. This is a very good litmus test for what you've got. I think people can look back. This Louisville game is you wonder, okay, was Louisville rusty and just not who we thought they were? Or no, Louisville is who we think they are. Ole Miss really is that good. They didn't play like they were supposed to against Austin Peay. They played to a lower level. How are they going to react now to Tulane? I'm glad Tulane did what they did against Oklahoma, because it gives that team can say, listen, they've outbeat Oklahoma. If we don't come and give them what we need to give them, they could beat us. This could be the trap game. So I think that's the thing that we're going to look for. Can Ole Miss dominate and do everything they need to do against Tulane? They should. They should. And so I think this is the perfect litmus test for, what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. And during your playing days, what were some games that you remember that would have been like the Tulane game, would have been like the Austin Peay game, where if you're not careful and play down to the opponent, they can jump up and get you, or something can happen? What's some games like that? What's some memories you might have of that?
Well, obviously Texas Tech. Those are both games where we thought that, not that they were inferior to us, but you knew that these were teams that could really play, and you better play and do everything that you're supposed to do. And they beat us twice. The Memphis game, that was a game where we knew that they were good. We had a lot to play for, but we just didn't come to play like we needed to, because those teams are really good. They're good teams. They're not as good as their opponents, but they got bit by them. We really never lost too many games that we shouldn't have lost. But whenever you're playing Louisiana Monroe, hey, those are good teams. Again, they're going to give you everything they've got. Arkansas State's, they're going to give you everything they got. And so those are teams, and I would say right now you would put Tulane in the group of a Memphis. You would put them in maybe because of what they did against Oklahoma, you could say Texas Tech. They're teams that you should beat, but if you're not careful, they can beat you.
Yeah, and people talk about learning to win, coming off of the malaise of the last couple of years. This Ole Miss team is actually learning to win. We think we turned a little bit of a corner in the Outback Bowl, but they're still learning what they have to do. And if they're not careful, this is the type game that would just jump up and get them. Michael Pratt's a good young quarterback. Their offense is, they have Chip Long, who was with Mike Norvell at Memphis. And they're very multiple. Defense, they're unbelievably fundamentally sound. They're not going to beat themselves. You're going to have to beat them. You have better athletes than them. You should beat them. But it's one of those games, if you don't come out if you go out and you play sloppy and there's 14 penalties and you turn the ball over, they will jump up and get you.
Yes, and I think that the penalty game, we're saying that that's very concerning that we're having that many penalties, and I think that playing fundamentally sound is what you're supposed to do against these teams. If you do that, if you do what you're supposed to do, everything will take care of itself. So can they play like they're supposed to play, take care of the ball, and stay focused? Again, I think that's what concerns me the most. Is you saw what was it? Number 7, our linebacker. He got the penalty.
Sam Williams.
Sam Williams. Sam Williams got the penalty. Right before he did that, I think he was hugging Kiffin. That's you're having these penalties. That is a concern about not being focused, not having a matured mentality. So learning to win, just be who you're supposed to be. Stay focused. Your mindset's got to stay on. This is what we're doing. This is who we are. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to play the way we're going to play, and not get sidetracked in any way. And I think that's where a really mature team shows itself. And so, again, I think this is a good litmus test for us for Tulane, because again, this is not like playing Auburn. This is not like playing Arkansas. This is a team that you should fundamentally soundly beat them, and you shouldn't allow it to be close. You should beat them soundly, and you should stay focused throughout the entire game. If they can do that, I think that's going to show Alabama that you have a real team on your hands. If they get lazy, if they don't stay focused, if they can't keep the penalty game down, I think people are going to kind of maybe start thinking that Ole Miss might not be the team that they think that they could be.
Yeah, it's the couple of little things that's getting in the way of them accomplishing their goals. And I was just thinking, like, whenever we get back and start next week and start talking Alabama, and the week after that talking Alabama some more, that game is going to be an absolute zoo, but it will only be a zoo if you can win this game on Saturday. And
but Stephen, the teams that separate themselves from like Alabama and the top tier teams, it's the things that they're doing the little things right consistently. Again, every team's going to do good things, but they're not going to do them consistently. That's where Lane is really getting frustrated. He's not seeing them do it consistently. You played Austin Peay, you didn't do things consistently. So the teams that are really, really, really good, that are going to be at the end of the year contingent for SEC West and SEC champions, are the teams that are going to be consistent in doing the little things right and play the way they're supposed to do. So that is where the maturity, and that is where you can tell Kiffin is really getting frustrated and wants to see these guys be professionals, be consistent at what you're doing the little things right.
All right, what are some things that you're looking forward to seeing going to this Tulane game? What do you want to see? Obviously, the penalties need to come down. The little things need to happen. But what else do you want to see?
I really want to see more of Snoop Connor in the game. I was looking through this from statistics, and it's kind of shocking. We all know that Snoop Connor he's the guy that's going to body blows. He's the guy that's going to help establish that run. Ely, he is your Swiss Army knife. But if you want to keep those linebackers close, if you want to see teams going, okay, we really got to watch this run. Ely is fantastic, but he's your Swiss Army knife. He can do it all. Connor, he's the guy, when he's in, you've got to make sure that he's going to keep the middle of the field, those backers, close. I want to see him with the ball more. He has only had 13 carries this year for 83 yards. Parrish, he's our leading rusher. He's at 110 yards. Ely on 16 carries. Corral is our second leading rusher with 90 yards, and he has 20 carries. Ely is 85 on 16 carries. So I want to see Connor. I like to see Connor and Ely more in the ball game more. I want to see higher carries of them two. I just think that what that's going to do is that's going to allow your backers to be more at home, honest. I do think that when you play Alabama and you play some of these athletic defenses, I am concerned that because right now, if you're playing some of these other teams, those linebackers are going to make are going to pick off some of these quick slants, these quick, these reads. It's going to happen because right now, if you have Connor in the game, they're going to keep them up a little bit. They're going to stay closer home. He is your pounder. He's the guy that's going to carry the rock up the middle, and you're going to have to. A linebacker is not going to want to sit there and just take one in the chops. 4 yards. 4 yards from the line of scrimmage. They're going to want to come up. So that's where I really want to see it. The passing game is going to take care of itself. It is. It's going to take care of itself. I want to see more of Connor taking the ball, establishing that line of scrimmage, and keeping the linebackers close. So much of our game is predicated on that quick read, And the linebackers are athletic enough in the SEC and long enough to be able to snatch some of those balls. I mean, if you look at the talent we've played against, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
So that's my big thing offensively, because I think that once you have that, once you can keep those backers, and once you have Connor carrying the ball more up the middle, establishing more of that run, you're going to bring those safeties down a little bit. To kind of reiterate that, Sanders is our speed guy.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
Yes.
He has only caught 4 balls this year
Mm-hmm.
for 59 yards. Drummond, who's your middle of the field, he's your possession guy. He's your guy that, like the A.J. Brown. He can go deep. He can give you the speed if you want, but he's your guy that's he's your workhorse. But Sanders is your real speed guy. He's the guy that can kind of do what you want him to do, is stretch the field. So when you play against Alabama, when you play against these SEC teams, you're going to want to utilize Sanders' speed. And we have not yet taken the top off. And so once you do that, once you have Connor taking the ball up the middle, once you have Sanders taking the top off, I think that's what's going to be exciting to see. And I think that hopefully Tulane doesn't put you in a situation where you're having to try to show all your cards all at once. And I don't think they should. But I don't think Kiffin's going to do much more than what he needs to do against Tulane unless he has to.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to especially that Tulane game, because I want to see the continued emergence of Dontario Drummond. He reminds me a little bit of a Evan Ingram plus type player. He was a wide receiver last year. They moved him inside, and he's doing the things that Evan Ingram did from the tight end position, even though he's not a tight end. So technically on the field, they're running with 12 personnel out there. And they're doing a lot of work in the middle of the field because of the flexibility that Dontario brings.
Yeah, and with that being said, having him in the middle, having him be able to be the guy that you can take him across the field, you can bring him 20 yards and below. He's your big body guy. You have him working. Right now he's a well-oiled machine. Our tight ends right now, they've really been non-existent. I think once you can play him, once you can have our tight ends keeping the middle of the field, you have Dontario, you have Drummond being able to go across the middle, do what he does by catching those intermediate balls and keeping those safeties in, because you're keeping your tight ends, which that's a quarterback's best friend. I mean, if I was a quarterback and I could choose a blazer speed on the outside or a great tight end in the middle of the field, I'd be hard pressed to not say I want my great tight end, because that's going to keep everything in the middle. So with that being said, if we can get those tight ends going, that's when Sanders is going to be able to utilize what he's got. I just think right now we're not having to show our cards fully. And Drummond is your perfect asset it's like Anquan Bolden. That's who he reminds me of. Big, quick, fast, strong. A.J. Brown, from the inside. He's just a big body guy that can do so much from the inside, that once you have your outside receiver who's a speed guy, and you've got Connor, it's a really hard combination.
Yeah, and the physicality of Jonathan Mingo on the outside as well. He's kind of a Dante Moncrief type wide receiver. I mean, just a big bull out there. It's going to all work out eventually. I want to see what this offense will look like. But I do think that Chase Rogers or Hudson Wolf or somebody needs to emerge from that tight end position.
Once it does, I'll tell you this right now. Once it does, it will be absolute chaos for those defenses. I would say, I remember, what years was it? It was, we had 2007 when we had Dexter McCluster, we had Moncrief, we had who else was receivers? We had um, oh um, what was his great receivers.
Yeah,
But
just great receivers all over the field.
they had the ability to take those safeties and absolutely just destroy them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had so much speed. You could
Mike
Mike
Wallace.
Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean you could take the field and but there's somebody, the other guy,
Shea Hodge.
oh God, Shea Hodge. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Shea, you had so many weapons, and I felt like uh, we never took a full advantage of saying pick your poison. I
Yeah.
mean, run a post from the inside, run a takeoff from the outside, run a dig from the middle. You have all you just you're able to utilize everything that you need and use your strengths. This team has that. This team has the ability to do this. And so that's what I'm excited about, is to see how can Kiffin take Connor, use him as your bull horse up the middle, use Ely from the backfield, uh, use Plumlee from the inside. They have so many weapons but so much of it is predicated on that middle of the field.
Yeah.
Can you have that tight end that keeps those safeties home? If you can keep them from being able to fly up and being over the top, and you have Sanders that can go deep and can exploit that, that's going to open up so much and make it easier for these quick reads and for our quarterback to do the thing that he needs to do.
All right. Just real quick, I had a question that I'm just curious about. What was your favorite play undercut?
My favorite play was coming from the so Chris Collins and I played the same position, and people don't realize this. My sophomore year, his junior year, I had 54 catches. He had 57 catches.
Hmm.
The same position. And so I loved that. I loved that position because you could be the outside guy, but you could also be the inside slot guy, and you were able to read your backers. And so we had a lot of, you'd say, either the dig route, which was a great one, but it was more of a you're at the slot position. You're able to slant in, square up the linebacker, then come back up. If you want to take it outside to go out to the sideline, you go out. If you want to go inside, if you want to read the inside and get an inside slot move on them, it was a great play because it allowed the quarterback and the receiver to read. And that's not, I don't know how much that happens now, but so much of it was that was my favorite play because it just allowed this athletic receiver to square up on a linebacker. And to me, that was one of my favorite plays. But obviously, the dig route from the outside position, you run 10-yard post and then go across, and the takeoff. Those were my three favorite plays.
Oh, everybody loves a nine route. Anybody plays wide receiver. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Any fly route they're all about. Okay, going back to the Tulane game a little bit. What have you seen from Matt Corral in the first 2 days? He looks completely in control, almost like he's almost an autopilot. It just looks effortless out there.
Yeah, I think he looks fantastic. I think he looks like he knows exactly what he's doing. He's taking what the defense gives him. He's not trying to do too much. I'm excited in seeing what I'm saying.
Yeah, heck of a play. So ideally, just you'd like to see Snoop in the backfield more, Corral doing his thing, and then the three wide receivers, one tight end on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I want to see Ely and Snoop in the game more together because that's going to cause problems because you got the pounder, you have that in there. I just want to see Connor. I want to see Connor in the ball more. I want the ball in his hands more, because that's just going to keep your backers. Again, you've got such an athletic weapon with Ely. I mean, I don't know. To me, he's probably one of the best running backs in college football because he can do so much for you. So having Connor and having him in the game at the same time is really going to cause problems on defenses, in my opinion. And so that's why I want to see, because you can put the ball in Ely's hands in so many different spots on the field. I mean, we're seeing that in the pass game. Connor is more your true tailback of just pound him, beat him up, get in there. And so I think once you have him establishing more, it's going to organically free more things up.
All right. We obviously talked about how good they are. What's going? Oh, real quick before we get out of here, what do you think about the 3-2-6 defense? What they're doing? They obviously Jake Springer did not play last week. He's a major cog on that secondary, which is over half the defense. But what do you think about the defense?
I think our defense is. I mean, if you look how they played against Louisville, they played exactly the way that we wanted them to play, which was nobody would have believed it. Last week, they were a little lazy, a little lackadaisical on defense, in my opinion, a little bit. But that's very easy to do. It's hard. Alabama doesn't do it because it's Alabama. I think that's what Kiffin is. That's what he holds them to. That's the standard. So I think, again, last week it's kind of hard. I'm ecstatic of what I've seen against Louisville. What we see against Tulane is going to be a much better test, and I will be able to feel much more confident in what how that defense can play further along in the season.
Yeah, and whenever we come back after the Tulane game and start previewing Alabama in earnest, hopefully we can really preview that game from a 3-0 team and just get ready for the zoo that's going to happen. But Bill, man, I appreciate you coming by this week. We'll do it again next week, and man, just great time talking ball with you. It's been Talking Ball with Bill Flowers.
Well, thank you, Stephen. I sure enjoy it.
Yeah, and we'll see him next week. We're going to do this all year, and it's going to be a lot of fun because he's just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to football, and he played the position. So everybody hopes everybody has a good time, and hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.